guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video. Today's video is actually pretty short for me. I am using this spring bouquet stamp set from Gina K, and we are going to be doing some negative painting, which if you're a watercolorist or acrylic painter or anything you're probably really familiar with. If you're a card maker, you might not be. So I'm using my Daniel Smith watercolors. What you saw me doing there before was just adding water to my dried paints in my palette to reconstitute them. And then I'm just taking a wide 1-inch brush. I'm working on Canson Monteball watercolor paper. Yes, you could tape this down. I am very stingy with my watercolor paper because I am cheap. And so I cut them to size and then I just work around the warping of the paper. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a really, really light wash of the color that I'm using. I have found, and this may not be true for everybody, but for me, because I am at such a beginner level, that monochromatic works best. So I'm just putting down a really light wash, whatever color this is. And remember, watercolors dry lighter. Whatever color that is going to be the main color that you're going to see on your card. Just like we're stamping, this first stamping is going to be the focal point of your card. It will be the one that you will see the most of. So make sure you're happy with that background color before you do your first stamping. Also, your paper needs to be completely dry. This one is maybe a little bit more complicated because of the stamp that I chose, but you could do this if you wanted to practice with this. You could do just like a leaf stamp or one floral, because it is watercolor paper and it's textured. I did have to stamp it 2 times, and I am using Hero Arts Intense Black ink. I typically use this for my alcohol markers, but it is also waterproof, so I did stamp it twice and then went back in. Now, negative painting, we are going to mix up just a slightly darker purple, and then we're going to not paint the image itself, but we're going to paint around it. So we're going to paint the negative area. My paper is cut slightly larger than an A2 size card, and that is just because of the size that I buy. I buy a 9x12, so that gives me a 6x4.5 panel when I cut them. So I will be trimming this down, plus I end up matting it on my card. So if you are doing a small, you don't have to do your whole card front. You could do a smaller area. You would have less negative paint to space. Wow, Kelly. Less negative space to paint. That was a rough one, guys. I don't even know what happened there. But it will also give you less real estate to really let the technique shine. And this is going to allow us to create a lot of depth and dimension in our painting without really having to do a ton of work because there is no shading. So here, when I'm painting around my image, I'm using a number 4 round brush. But to make quick work of the rest of the negative area where I don't have to be more detailed, I am going to go back in with that same 1-inch flat brush. And of course, I didn't have enough paint. I'm going to have to mix more paint, which you should probably try to avoid just so that it's the same color. But it was close enough for government work for me. So I just added a little bit to what I had already painted to make sure everything was going to blend in. Also, watercolors are transparent. So this is not going to be necessarily a completely smooth background, but don't worry, the more layers we build up, you're not even going to be able to see that this first layer was not as even as I would have liked it. Because I am a completist, that does bother me. But you really truly will not be able to tell that the first layer was uneven. So here I've just sped it up, because this did take a hot minute, especially going around all of those little leaves and things. And why did I choose purple? Honestly, I don't know, because it's one of my least favorite colors. But that's just kind of what spoke to me. I do think that I probably could have added in some analogous colors. Like I could have done a purple and a blue or a purple and a pink, to make it more interesting. But I actually really like this technique, just monochromatic. And you're going to see by the time that we're done, it almost looks like fabric print. really super cool kind of technique to stretch what you already have, because you could literally do this with any stamp. Or if you are a person who does illustration or watercolor, like you would obviously draw your own. Why am I doing this video? A couple of videos back, I had shared some different ways to use stencils to make them look as if you had freehand watercolored them. And in that, I said I had another idea that I wanted to share with you guys, which is the negative painting. And I still plan on doing that video, but because I know me, I know that video is going to be long. Here, let's go back. So now, again, you have to make sure your paper is perfectly dry. Let it dry or hit it with a heat tool. And now we're going to stamp yet another layer of flowers, but this time it's going to be this darker purple. So we're going to stamp that down. And I could have done two. I only ended up doing one because, again, you know, it's an A2 size card. So there's not necessarily, with a stamp this size, there isn't necessarily that much room. So I stamped it twice, and now we're going to go back in. And then here I'm just showing you, I'm mixing the purple, picking up some of that, I think it's quinacridone purple, and then some black, and adding that in there to make it a darker purple. And now, again, we're going to go in and do the negative painting, this time painting around both of our flowers, all of the negative space. And then we will continue on. Just do as many as you would like. What was I talking about before? Does anybody know? We had this, the video. So I knew that doing the video with the stencils, because I wanted to use several different stencils, would take quite some time to do. I wanted to have another video where I could just refer people, hey, if you don't know what negative painting is. And I do have one on my channel, actually, from a really long time ago, where it wasn't the layers like this one is. It was something a little bit, or the monochromatic layers, I should say. It was a little bit different. It was rainbow, but it was really old. It was so old, y'all. And you know how I found it is because I was on the struggle bus with what to make. Like, sometimes I just have weeks where I don't necessarily have anything due. I'm not part of any releases or anything. I don't have anything due for the teams that I'm on. And so then I get to make whatever I want. But then sometimes that stumps me. Does that ever happen to you? Like, sometimes I'm like, oof, what am I going to do? Like, I don't know. And so what I did was I just went back to, I have a box in my craft room that is full of stamps products that I have purchased myself because I loved them, that I sometimes don't always get to use right away because of other projects and things I've committed to. And so this was one of them. This is one of the ones that I bought because I truly loved it. They have a similar one. It's by a different illustrator, but it's a similar style of stamp. Gina K does. That's called Timeless Poppies, and I have that one as well and love it. So here I skipped showing you the stamping, but I did stamp more. I know that it is hard to see. I just filled in those like little gaps in between them. So in the bottom right-hand corner, top right-hand corner, and in the middle left, I have stamped. And again, I know it's hard to see. It will be more apparent once I add. This is now just pure black because I've run out of areas to stamp on. So I want it to be as dramatic as possible. So I just went straight to the black. And now that is what I am using to paint around all of the things. And you can just see it creates a lot of depth, and it truly does start to look like a fabric print. And I love that because I really think that it's a very versatile technique. So yeah, so I do plan on doing a video upcoming with some stencils and this idea here. And in fact, one of you guys, I'm sorry, I don't remember your name. I apologize. One of the followers had actually on that video was like negative painting. And I was like, yes, exactly. That is exactly what my game plan is. And I think that stencils will work really well for it also. So I'll give that a go here in the future. We were talking about why I was looking at old videos. So yeah, I just, sometimes you have to go back because you're stumped on what to do. So I go to the box and I try to find something I want to use. And if I still can't come up with something that I like that it doesn't speak to me right away, that I don't have an immediate technique, then I look at my own things. Sometimes I look at other people's, videos or Instagrams or whatever, because you can be inspired by all these wonderful crafters that we're all sharing our works and things like that. But oftentimes I will go back and look at my own videos and try to find something that I loved, maybe something I haven't done in a while, something that I think is unique or different that I would like to revisit, because maybe the video I did it with has much older products and people aren't seeing it because the products are older. So this I think is just super fun. And because this builds our whole background, there really isn't much else you have to do. You have to do to complete your card, because it's just so good on its own. I really did have to fight myself quite a bit not to add any shading to the florals, because I love florals and I love coloring them. And I was like, no, just leave it. Just leave it the way it is. And I am glad that I did, but I will for sure come back to this stamp set and color it another time, because it's just so pretty. I just love the way that it looks. So now once this step is done, this is the last step. And even though before you could hardly see that purple, now obviously against the black, you can see it. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to trim this down. I ended up trimming it down to, I think it was like maybe it was 4.25 by 5. No, 4 by 5.25. But you'll see that I am turning it and I am trimming all the edges. The reason that I chose to cut it that way is because you can see that the edges are painted. And so I wanted all of the edges to be really clean. So I did turn it and cut each one of them so I would have a white edge on each side. Now, obviously, my background is black. I could go, around those edges and color them black, but I really liked the contrast that the white offered because my background is dark, but then I also matted it on a dark background. Here, what I am doing, this is not necessary at all. This is my own thing. I like a bold black outline, and I want my black to be black. So I went in after everything was dry and I used a fine liner to re-outline my stamping, just so that it was genuinely a bold black. But again, this is not necessary. This is just me doing what makes me happy. So, and then the other thing I did, I actually think I forgot to leave it in and I apologize. I just went in with a white gel pen and added some very small dots to the stamen of the flowers for them to kind of pop off. For the sentiment, there's a couple of really, really great ones, especially if you're a Christian like I am. There's a couple of really great sentiments in this set. This one is a birthday one, which I think is more meant for the inside, honestly. It says sending birthday wishes your way for a beautiful year filled with happiness, laughter, and love. It's a long sentiment, which typically goes on the inside. But to me, it gave kind of like that pattern vibes that I really, really liked. So I chose to put it on the front. Plus, for me, a birthday card is more useful. So that is why I chose to go this route. I think it is a little bit hard to read on camera, but in real life, you can read it. So I treated it with my anti-static tool, stamped it in white pigment ink, used white detail embossing powder, and then just heat set that. I chose to mat it on some purple cardstock. This is eggplant, but I did pop it up for some interest, and I am using the Picket Fence extra wide foam tape for this. But in order to make sure that it gives me enough give, I am going to use the Gina K Connect glue on the back of it so that I can make sure that I get it lined up before it touches down forever and ever, because there is no give with foam tape. Once it's down, it's down. So the liquid glue gives me that ability to kind of wiggle it that I need. So once that is matted, the last thing that I chose to do is add some rhinestones. And I ended up using, I think they're called Frozen. They're Gina K. I think they're her Frozen rhinestones. They're super pretty. They appear to be white until you put them on something, and they're almost like transparent, where they're like rainbowy to iridescent, kind of like, where they pick up the colors underneath them. So you can see they're white, but when I put them on the black cardstock, they do appear to be much darker. Really like these, really big fan. So once I got those down, then that's it. That's the whole cart. So I hope this inspired you guys to give this a try, maybe get some practice in before we do that next video, where we're going to be using the stencils. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I always appreciate your time, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.